All right, guys. Next, we're going to head over to the Maester's Study. This is where we kind of do a quick history lesson, give you some background on Westeros. And right now, we're working from a World of Ice and Fire. Now, if you followed us previously, we actually had gotten through, I think, the first 3 or 4 chapters. But now we're just going to comb back through, do a much shorter version of that. Because some of these things are, it's like the Dawn Age, for example. It's like, what, 2 pages, 2-3 pages? And it's cool because like not a lot is known about the Dawn Age, and the Maesters even kind of say that it's uncertain knowledge. What they are certain on is this, and what they're not certain on is this, and so it's kind of neat. It's very vague, but it's neat.
And some weeks will be bigger because as the book progresses, some of the chapters get bigger, and then there's more tie-ins.
Oh yeah,
things like that.
Once you get into like the conquest, Aegon's conquest, and things like that, that will be huge. But for now, it's going to be kind of a short segment. I'll read you guys a summary from the Dawn Age. Westeros was inhabited by children of the forest and giants. The first men crossed over into Westeros from Essos over the arm of Dorne. There was a war between the first men and the children of the forest. It lasted around 2,000 years and ended with a pack at the Isle of Faces. So, pretty short. I thought it was neat though. We got a couple bullet points here that Matt and I are going to kind of talk about. Just that they were just children. They were just children in giants,
right,
in Westeros.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that there wasn't anything else in the rest of the world, as we'll get to as we dive into. Like if you look over in Essos, Essos and Valyria, that's where kind of the Targaryens come from, and so where we're at now is not like where we were during the Dawn Age. And there's even things where there are creatures from other sides of the world that aren't even really mentioned in Game of Thrones, like
exactly
the Isles.
Right, go west of Westeros, and they've asked that question, what's there?
Right,
and really, it's never been. It's meant to be unknown. One quick thing I did say, there was just children and giants. I read in this, and like there's notes, there's like Maester notes in here, and there is some sort of belief that there could have been something going on in Old Town, that there could have actually been a port there where there were men, and they were like a trading post and stuff. So
and we listened to the audiobook of this as well, and the way it's told is pretty interesting, where I believe it's like 2 maesters are kind of going back and forth talking about it. And so even the way the book is written as if these maesters are telling you the story, which is really cool. So I have some little segments here I'll read, and then I think we'll dive into just a little bit of it. This week there's not really a lot. What can most accurately be told about the Dawn Age? The eastern lands were awash with many peoples, uncivilized all over the world, as all of the world was uncivilized, but numerous. But on Westeros, from the lands of always winter to the shores of the summer sea, only 2 people existed, the children of the forest and the race of the creature known as the giants. Some other important things here, as I kind of mentioned them. The children of the forest were in many ways the opposites of giants. As small children, but dark and beautiful, they lived in a manner we might call crude today. Yet they were still less barbarous than the giants. They worked no metal, but they had great art in working obsidian. What the small folk called dragon glass, what the Valyrians knew by as a word meaning frozen fire, to make tools and weapons for hunting. They wore no clothes, but were skilled in making garments of leaves and bark. They learned to make bows of weirwood and to construct flying snares of grass, as both the sexes hunted with these.
Yeah, and something that's interesting, they mentioned, you get a couple of different races here, or groups of people. What is known about this Dawn Age, they say, came from ancient texts and writings from the Andals, the Valyrians, the Giscari, and Ashai. So that was kind of cool to mention some of those ancient, peoples and stuff, where that's where the Maesters are getting some of their information from. So but
after that, it goes on to talk a little bit about briefly mentioning some other things, such as Greenseers and the gods.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. I have a part pulled up here. The gods the children worshipped were the nameless ones, the ones that would one day become the gods of the first men. The innumerable gods of the streams and and forest and stones. It was the children who carved the weirwoods with faces, perhaps to give eyes to their gods so that they might watch their worshippers as their devotions. Others, with little evidence, claim that the Greenseers, the wise men of the children, were able to see through the eyes of the carved weirwoods, which we will definitely get to this idea of green sight later as we go on, even in Game of Thrones, but certainly more in later books, especially A Feast for Crows.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. Yep. Now you had an interesting connection here. I don't know if you'll talk about it now or not. The sea stone chair.
Yeah. So it briefly mentions at the very end of this two-page chapter this idea of the sea stone chair. Among the Ironborn, it is said that the first of the first men to come to the Iron Islands. So if you ever looked at a map of Westeros, it's kind of one big part. It looks a lot like England, which I think which is what it's kind of modeled after. And then you have these islands off of it, which is kind of similar to Ireland. Among the Ironborn, it is said that the first of the first men to come to the Iron Islands found the famous sea stone chair of Old Wick. But the isles were uninhabited. If true, the nature and origins of the chair's makers are a mystery. Maester Kurth, in his collections of Ironborn legends, Songs of the Drowned Men Sing, has suggested that the chair was left by visitors from across the Sunset Sea, but there is no evidence for this, only speculation. So a lot of this book, I will say, is taken from the wiki, and it's helped.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah.
And like the wiki and this actually kind of go together.
They do.
And Gur, I believe, helped edit this and signed off on it. And a lot of it just comes from, as you read the chapters, they'll drop these like tiny little threads, like they'll mention something, and then people have gone through and found, hey, this is the mention of this, this is the mention of this, and they piece together. So if you go on the wiki or you have this book, you can kind of see all of this world being built outside of just the main characters. Yeah,
the hyperlinks, when they mention something like the sea stone chair, you can click on that, boom, go check out what was there, and references that were made throughout all the books and stuff. So it's
I find this one and this little piece interesting because this chapter in A World of Ice and Fire is mostly just about the Dawn Age, things very early, and so if the sea stone chair was left there, and it's only mentioned in this one little side paragraph, then that would mean that other people have been to Westeros, or at least certainly the Iron Islands, early.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, it makes sense, like I mentioned with Old Town and the Iron Islands, those being the places where perhaps you had more men, and they just didn't interact with the children who were on the mainland, and things like that. So that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and the sea stone chair itself is pretty cool. It is a chair made of a block of oily black stone carved into the shape of a kraken.
Yeah.
Legend says it was found on the shores of Old Wick by the first men when they came to the Iron Islands. So it was possibly here before.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so what happened to them? You know what I mean?
Yeah. How did that chair get there?
Right. So they get there and they discover it, but who was there?
Exactly.
Right. So. Man, super cool, and it's meant to be ambiguous, and
it's just slowly beginning to build the world,
right? And you need something that lore, that legend, that not everything is you're not going to fill in every gap and every detail. So it's good that we have something like the Dawn Age, where even when you get to the fight with the children, that war lasted for 2,000 years,
exactly,
right? And so it's what a vast amount of time. How many things could have happened in there, and what was it like, and how crude were the buildings and the weapons and things like that. So, yeah, really cool.